Welcome to the 2023 NRHA Futurity preview here on Up for Discussion. After a bit of a layoff due to some personal issues, including getting married, we are back for the first episode since the Run for the Million review. I had planned on doing a review of a lot of different shows, starting with the 100X in Tulsa and continuing with High Roller and a few other horse shows that had some big futurities this fall. And things just didn't work out between getting married, obviously, and then just things with my business and with my horse show deal that's been going on, keeping me busy. So enough about that. Let's move on to what you're all here for, the discussion surrounding the futurity. I'm going to start with a statement about the year in general. And this is nothing against anybody that's bred a horse or trained a horse this year. It's just one of these things. It's just one of those years, and it's a normal thing in horse showing. We've been spoiled the last few years with some great horses, whether on paper and in the prelims and stuff, with a horse like Andiamo, or with 1030 the year before that, or in 2020 with the phenomenal depth of the field we had, where we had 4 all-time great horses come out of one field. 5 actually, but only 4 were in the finals. And we're looking at that caliber of horse, and everybody's thinking, oh, it's going to continue, it's going to continue. There is a point where I think that we've hit a spot and it's got to reset a little bit, and this year is one of those years. There is not as obvious of a standout 3 or 4 horses that make me go, wow, I want to watch them. There's a lot of really good 3-year-olds in this bunch, and one of them might turn into one of the all-time greats. But from watching it, there's nothing that's set itself out from the field exceptionally far yet. That being said, I have a theory on why this is going on, and my theory is, with as jammed as the show schedule is this year, a lot of the guys have not spent as much time on their own 3-year-olds, and it's been up to the assistants to do most of the work. I heard a story about one top trainer being gone for basically 4 months and only being home for 4 days in the middle of that. Taking their 3-year-olds as much as they could, but when you're running from California to Florida, back to Tulsa, to Vegas twice, it makes it a very tough schedule. And I want to say that makes it so impressive to me what these guys are doing and what they're getting capable of. And it's also a testament to the strength and the depth of the assistants that are working for all of these top trainers, especially the top 6 or 7 guys that I want to talk about. Now, that being said, we're going to jump right in and jump right into the middle of this preview. And I'm going to go down a list of about 40 or so horses that I think are potential threats to be in the finals. And I'll give you a few predictions on who my top couple horses are to watch out for, the ones you can't miss, the ones with some upside, the ones that are probably the rock-solid ones, as rock-solid as a 3-year-old can be. The first team I want to talk about is Francesco Martinati and 66 Vaquero Guns. Although hasn't really been a player at many of the pre-futurities and stuff, the way this horse is bred and Francesco's showmanship, I had to pick one of his, and this is the one I think has the best chance to be big. While saying that, I'm not as confident in Francesco's 3-year-olds this year as I have been in the past, but I do think one of them will step up. I'm just naming this one, but any one of his horses could step up. I think this is the one. Next up, we're going to talk about Abby Lingle. She was 3rd place last year on Bringing the Heat, and I think that she's got her 3-year-old program really figured out. They're very consistent, and this year, although she's got 3 in it, the 2 I think are the strongest are the 2 Gotta Twisted Ups, Gotta Be Electric, and Twisted Kiss. Abby was an 18 on both of them back at Tulsa in August. I think if they're lined out right and everything goes well, they could darn sure be there finals night. They may not have the top end one maneuver like Bringing the Heat did, but you know if Abby's bringing them, they're going to be prepped, they're going to be ready, and she's going to show them as hard as they are capable of, and she will maximize what they are offering. Arno Honstetter is bringing a couple. The one that I'm predicting to be his best is the horse named Ghostface. I think this horse is probably his strongest because of the way it's shown that it has proven it's capable of being shown back in Scottsdale in October. And I think this might be his strongest horse. And Arno usually is a threat on 2 of his at least to make it back. I think this one's the one that will make it back. No other reason other than mentally, I think this is the most mature of his bunch. Brandon Brandt is showing a horse named Spook the Gunman that I think is as good as the ones he had last year that just hasn't had the luck in the pre-futurities that the one did last year. This one is also out of the Marganolita, and I really like this one sibling last year. I think Brandon's got a shot to be in the finals as long as, horse show and stuff doesn't happen. I think Brandon, it proves every year how good of a horse he produces, and I think this is another one that's right up the alley with that. I'm betting this one's going to be a semifinalist, if not possibly in the finals. Next, I want to talk about Jared Leclerc and Tempted to Shine. Tempted to Shine is by PS Mega Shine Chick Crush, and I think that this horse is really, really cool, but the reason why I'm picking this one on top of it's shown that it can compete is Jared is one of the more underrated showmen in the industry, and with his quiet confidence and ability to avoid mistakes, I think he darn sure could be right there in the mix come semifinals night, which would put him in contention for finals night. Another one to talk about is a horse named Dunware Wranglers, getting shown by Josh Tishman. This horse has shown during this year that it can compete and be in the high-end levels. I really think that this might be Josh's breakout 3-year-old, as we've seen him show older horses and be very successful, especially Derby horses, especially when he was working for Casey. I think this one might be that breakout horse for him where he gets to go say, hey, this is one that is a 3-year-old that I can go show a futurity horse as good as I can show a Derby horse. Josh is a really good showman, shows really aggressive, almost a little fearless, which I like. And there's just something about the way this horse does things that I'm a big fan of. I will be looking forward to watching this one. Another guy to watch for, because he's on a roll, is Gabriel Borges, who just won the 100X Stakes back in Tulsa. Although that's the 4-year-old thing, I will say I think Gabriel's a guy that you got to watch for. He's figuring out how to balance what he asks of one and what they can give him and maximize it. It's a great feat to watch. I think this is a team to watch for. I don't know which horse to be the favorite of because I haven't seen any of them be outstanding yet in the pre-futurities. That being said, he's one of those guys I just kind of expect to do good now. And so I'm going to pick Alpha Sassy Gal as the horse of his that I think is going to make it, although it could be any of his 3, maybe even 2 of them. Another one I need to throw in and talk about is Jordan Larson. Jordan has a streak of making the futurity finals, and although the pre-futurity season has not been as kind to him as I would like to say, I got to watch him school his horses before he came. A lot of them are looking good, and I couldn't tell you which one's going to be his best, so I kind of picked, not literally, but I kind of picked out of a hat on which one. Any of his 3, maybe all 3, maybe 2, either way, any of his 3 could be in. I think Touch of Class is probably the best bred, and that's why I kind of went with it, because usually the mare side will tell you what they're going to do, and that's the horse I picked. But any of Jordan's could be a threat, obviously. I'm also going to throw out there and pull up Casey O'Rourke's name. Although she's got 3 pretty good ones, including Union Jack, there's just one horse of her bunch that has looked like more of a show horse to me and really did at Congress, and that's got to beat the boys. I think that there's something there that I can't put my finger on, but watching it show the little bit I have, this horse there's something special there that if it gets tapped into can hang with a lot of horses in the field, especially in a 3-year-old pen like this. Cole Price, I'm predicting to have 2 at or near in the finals. The one is the horse that he placed on in the top 5 or 6 or so at the Congress. And I think that horse is a really nice horse. I believe his name is Scotty Doesn't Know. And then the other horse is the horse that made the finals at the Congress and just had some bad luck and got tangled and stuff. And I think that horse is actually the better of the 2 horses. His name is Golden Coins. He's a Spook's Got a Gun. I think that horse right there reminds me of, not exactly, but there's just a certain presence about that one that reminds me of the gray mare that he showed for Meadows all those years ago. That he was second on, and there's something about that I think that if it works, kind of like I said with Casey, if it works, I think there's something special there. And I don't even know, I couldn't even tell you which maneuver it is or what it is that sets it off with me, but there's just one of those tingles in the back of my ear that says, pay attention to that one. Continuing on my theme of underappreciated showmen, let's talk about Marco Riccata. Marco has a couple this year, but the one that I think, once again, is the one that looks like the best show horse of the bunch, is Savage Love. He was third on it at Scottsdale back in October. It's super nice horse. I think he marked in the mid 220s, really high for a 3-year-old though, and it looks the part. And I think Marco, with his determination and that just sheer will that he carries when he shows one, I think that could be a pair to watch for. I think it could be, top half of the finals type horse. And, if enough people make a mistake and Marco has everything go right, he could be even higher in the mix. Another one I need to mention, and it's just for the pure fact I love the horses that this mare produces, and also when they're in this guy's program. Trent Harvey has another full sibling out of Nestle Quick Chick by NRHA, and you always have to watch these horses. They may not have been the winner yet, but every one of them is a really nice horse that you need to watch for. And this year, that might be enough to be in that top echelon of the Futurity. I really think that horse that breeding, that cross is something special. And if I'm guessing right, they're going to do that until the cows come home on that cross. Another horse that has had a famous sibling already compete at this event in years past is Pawn Stars, a PS Mega Shine chick out of All Guns on Deck. This one placed high at both the Invitation and at the Southwest Futurity. I believe he was second at Southwest and third at the Invitation. This is the horse, this is the setup that Danny needs to win his first Futurity. I know he's always got 2 or 3, and I've started to consider Danny in that top 10 trainers of right now. He's like that 7-8 slot behind what I consider the big 6, and I think he's one of the best in the business and one of the best to do it right now. And if this horse plays his game and shows the way Danny wants it to, I think it's got all of the ability to go be big enough to go win Danny his first Futurity. And I'm saying that right here in the middle of this video. But this is the one of Danny's to watch. He's got 2 others, but this is the one to watch. Speaking of the Invitation, let's talk about the reserve champion, H.S. Marshall and Trevor Dare. This is a Colonel Shining Gun who I think stops probably as big as any 3-year-old in this pen, with the exception of 2 that we'll talk about in a little bit. And I think Trevor is due to be right there in the Futurity. I think he had a little bit of rough luck this year at the Million. I think some stuff could have gone his way at some of the other majors. And I just see this horse with all the little clips and stuff that he shows, because Trevor's got great marketing. But his run at the Invitational, I think this horse could be something special. And it's got all the athleticism. And as feely as it is, it needs somebody as quiet as Trevor to show it. And I think that's a match made in heaven that could be lethal if it works. Another guy that I want to talk about is Dwayne Latimer, who, if you watch this channel long enough, you know I've described Dwayne as the best mechanic as far as training a horse in the entire industry. I think he's one of the best horse trainers from that perspective, in terms of he can teach a horse such a correct way to do things and such a direct way to do things. He's got 2, both owned by XCS, that I like. On paper, I like the Colonel Shining Gun a little better, but it's one of those things you can never count Dwayne out, and he has to be mentioned. And I always look forward to watching Dwayne show, and this is a year that I think he flew under the radar a little bit. And these 2 horses are both excellent animals. Now we're getting into some of the pre-Futurity champions. So let's talk about our Congress winner, Brian Bell and Crystallized Whiskey. This Whiskey and Diamonds is a solid show horse. It's looked great both times he's shown it. I really like this horse. I think Brian, if you had to bet on who's going to win the first go-around, this wouldn't be a bad choice. If you had to bet on who's going to win the second go-around, this wouldn't be a bad choice. History is not friendly to Brian if he wins both go-rounds. He ends up usually somewhere in the middle of the pack. One year he ended up second by about a point behind Andrea. And that's nothing to sneeze at, and it's a huge accomplishment. I think Brian has the horse to be right there again. If this one's brain holds together, that is the only caveat I have. If Brian preps him right and this thing's mind is just right on show night, this one could win Brian his first Futurity. That being said, that's a big if, because as we all know, some of these 3-year-olds can come unstuck here after 3 runs when the tired and the fatigue sets in. I'm curious to see how this one handles it. I'm actually kind of excited for Brian, and I hope this goes as well as it can for him. The next one I want to talk about is the co-champion at the Best in the West Futurity, Eric Cadeo and Walla Walla Gun. This one marked a 225 in the early October. And I don't care what you think about how it was judged. I don't care what you think about conditions. I don't care that certain people weren't at that horse show. If you mark a 225 in an aged event with multiple judges, you showed the heck out of your horse. And Eric has proven this year. He won that wild card deal back in Arizona. He's won multiple things at the mid-major size fraternities and derbies and stuff all throughout the year. That's probably the biggest prize he's won so far, is winning Southwest, or is winning Best in the West. But that being said, he could be in the finals and making a run for the first time at the Level 4 finals there at Oklahoma. Speaking of Best in the West, the other co-champion, Gennaro Lendi and Smokin' Barbie. Gennaro's obviously showing 3 for Mark and Kathy. There's 2 of them that are money earners already, or that are top finishers at big pre-fraternities already. Smokin' Barbie's one, and Shiner's Easy Money is the other. Both of these horses look the part, and Gennaro has not missed a beat since coming over to the States from Italy. He is as aggressive of a showman as there is in the industry, and if it works, he is great. And I think that mare has the power to hang with everybody else. I think that horse looks the part. I really do think that Gennaro could be right there in the top 4 or 5 easily, pushing for the top prize when it comes time on either one of those horses. But the mare's who I think is probably the stronger of the two. All right, now let's talk about Mr. Consistent himself, the Iceman Craig Schmersel. I think Craig has got 2 that are strong as can be for this deal. One of them has got Attitude, who's out of his mare that he won the Futurity on, Face the Attitude. And the other is Try That in a Small Town. And that's the one, if I had to pick one, that's the one that I think is the better horse. The other horse, though, I think fits the narrative better and would be a better story. Either one of these works, and either one of these is something that I would not be surprised to see right near the top. I'm definitely not going to be surprised if both of them make the finals. I think that's not a given because it's 3-year-olds, but that is almost as strong of a horse as you can pick in this bunch in terms of consistency. And with Craig's showmanship and how consistent he is, the pair's just going to be hopefully rock solid and go be their consistent 222 selves and go make the finals easy. Now let's talk about one of my other big dogs. Jason Van Landingham is coming off winning the Million, and he's got 3 horses that are all capable, I think, in this deal. 2 of them are possible to win it, I think. He's got Rough and Ready, the Not Rough at All. He's got a Little Trashy, the Gonna Trash Ya, and he's got Slide Me Some Shine, who just won the Southwest. If you had asked me before the Southwest which one was his best, that wouldn't have been my pick. But with that run and showing what he can do there, I think that's probably Jason's strongest horse. Once again, the mind and the proven fact that it knows how to show. But there's something about Jason on those tougher ones that are a little bit, you kind of aren't sure what they're going to do, and that's where that Rough and Ready horse makes me go, got to pay attention. I also think you got to pay attention to a Little Trashy. It wouldn't surprise me if Jason pulled one of those years where he's got 3 of them in the finals, he's got 3 of them in the top 10, and he's walking out of there with more money than anybody except whoever the winner is, unless he does win it. And there's a good possibility with really all 3 of those horses, but there's 2 of them that I think are right there near the top of this group. And I'm curious to see how they show. Next, we're going to talk about Cade McCutcheon. And Cato he might have the best depth of the field with the exception of one person in the whole thing. I like all 3 of his horses. Spooks DeVille and Galilei, both are strong horses, probably going to be finalist contenders. Probably going to be contenders to be in that 20 to 8 range-ish. The other one, though, All Night Partier, the Gunner Special Night, the one that he won the first Tulsa Futurity on, that horse is freakish in the stop. And when I was talking earlier about there's one horse that might stop better than, or 2 horses that might stop better than Trevor's, this is one of them. I think that All Night Partier is freakish enough in the stop that if Cade gets him turned and shown with no penalties outside of the stops, he might be sitting on a 74 by the time the night's done before he does any other maneuver with just his stopping. Like, that's how good this horse looks. I really think that is going to be a strength. And when you have one that stops like that, that's something you really hope holds and really hope works. And I could see Cade winning his second Futurity on that horse easily. Long way to go between now and then, but it's definitely a horse that I think could be in there. Now, since we talked about one guy who's got one of the best depths of field, let's talk about the guy who I think does have the best depth of field. And no surprise, it's NRHA. NRHA Futurity has 3 that I think are lethal. He has 4 actually in it that I'm going to talk about, but we'll get to the 4th one in a minute. But the 3 horses that he chose to show, Hypnotize, Inferno 35, and Vintage Checks, they all have different strengths to them. Hypnotize has been, I don't want to say the underachiever this year, but of the 3, he's kind of done the least, but he's still so impressive. He's so good everywhere. And, a little bit of stuff going slightly different at Tulsa, and he might have won it instead of the Inferno that NRHA did win it on. And then we go to Vintage Checks. That horse is what looks like the most broke and most ready and most solid horse in this field. He looks like he's going to go out there and mark you a 222 to a 224 every single time. No doubt in my mind. He's broke, he's simple, he does all this stuff. He's cool to the ground, he turns good, but he's a plus half good horse everywhere, very good on occasion in some things. He is that high floor, medium-sized ceiling for this level, and I think that he's going to be Mr. Consistent. He's going to be the one that NRHA can bank on to earn a check. That being said, Inferno 35 is the boomer bust horse. This horse that's owned by Steve Archer has the biggest potential of any horse that I've seen. I think he is the most stylish. I think he's the most physical. I think he's cool as all get out. But I've only seen NRHA show him in a snaffle bit. I did not watch him show him in a bridle. I am curious how it looks. That being said, it's NRHA. I don't doubt him. He's probably got him broke. But this is his type of horse. This is that gamble horse. This is that one that he can go 1.5 to 1, 1.5, 6 different maneuvers. And if he does, he's walking away with it. But if he doesn't, he's going to leave the door wide open. Penalties are a possibility, things like that. I think this horse is exceptional, and I'm kind of looking forward. I have it marked out already, kind of when I think it's going to show, and I'm going to be making sure I get to my phone while I'm in the barn to be able to watch it. Now, talking about NRHA's 4th horse, he hired his son Luca to show him. Inferno, with 3 N's in the middle of his name, just so you can tell the difference. This horse had some really good runs with NRHA throughout the pre-Futurity season. I think that if you're going to hire a catch rider, hiring your son who grew up in your program is a really good choice. And hiring your son who's been riding with Casey Deary for the last year and getting his showmanship and his release tactics a little more, you're talking about there's a possibility that our level 2 and 3 champion is going to be in the level 4 finals and near the top. Now, Luca's experience, although strong for where he's at in his professional career, is still not at the level of some of the guys he's going to be around. I have no idea how he would react to nerves in the situation. He's reacted well every time the pressure's been put on him this year. I'm really curious to see what happens here. And I'd be chuffed for Luca to make the level 4 finals and give his dad and his boss a run for the money at the same time. That being said, it's going to be wild and it's going to be interesting, but I'm curious about that. Now, let's not forget, Luca has another horse too. Actually, he has 2 other horses, but the other one that I want to highlight is All Bets In. I think that one has the potential to be on the edge of the level 4 finals and very possibly high up in the level 3 once the deal's done. So watch for those 2 of Luca's. Watch for all 3 of his, really, but watch for those 2 specifically. Now, we talked about Luca. Let's talk about his boss, Casey Deary. Casey's got 3 horses that are all finals contenders because it's Casey and they always are. One of them, I think, is exceptional. The other 2 are more iffy if they're going to be near the top of the whole field. First of all, he's got the brother to the horse he was second on last year in Custom Dreams. Sorry, I had to check my notes again. That horse is very, very good. I have not seen enough of that horse to give you a really in-depth analysis. I just know that if Casey brought it, he's going to like it. The other one he's going to show is a horse named the Flash. The Flash is very athletically gifted and I think capable, but he hasn't shown the mind that the other one has. Now, if you go back over Casey's Futurity wins in the past, 2 of the 3 have something in common, and that is that he won the Vegas pre-Futurity at High Roller before he went and won the big Futurity. He did it on America's Next Supermodel, and he did it on, America's Next Gun Model, and he did it on She's Out of Your League. Both those horses won Vegas, won the Futurity. 1030 did not win Vegas before he won the Futurity, but I digress. It's a fun narrative to play with. Need I say more? Did win Vegas and won it pretty well. But, big key, but he showed him in a Hackamore. I am curious how that one transitions into a bridle. Casey's style seems to move Hackamore to bridle very easily. I am interested to see how this one shows. I think it could be as strong as any other horse in this field, and he's going to be right up there at the very top. And now we get to last year's champion, Sean Flaherty, who has 2 that I think are finalist contenders that I don't really know what the ceiling is on either one of them. I put Alpha One Last Gun as the weaker of the 2, but he's bred right, and Sean's showing him, so you know he's got something to it. Miss Sparkling Vintage is the stronger of the 2 horses, in my opinion, and reminds me of a mare Sean showed several years ago that he was second at the Congress on, and then placed very well and made the finals at the Futurity. She was an exceptional Hollywood Tinseltown mare, and I think that is a very strong case to be made for this one being somewhat similar. I really am excited to see what happens here with this one, but I don't know enough about it. I only know what I saw at the Congress, and I've not seen any of the other pre-Futurity Sean's shown at. So that's my watch list this year. And although I don't get into as much depth as I usually do because I was unable to watch as much of the Futurities between judging and horse showing and moving and getting married, I am really looking forward to this. And I can give you probably who I think my 5 best horses are in the bunch. I think your safe bet to be near the top is the Vintage Checks horse of Andrea's. The Boomer Bust, obviously, that is very capable of winning it, is Andrea's Inferno 35. I think Casey's Need I Say More. I think Cade's All Night Partier. That's your 3-dog race for the favorites. But just so I can say that I picked one, I'm actually going to go off the board for no other reason than a gut feeling and that there's something special about that horse. And I'm going to pick, like I said, off the board, and I'm going to pick Casey O'Rourke and Gotta Beat the Boys to go win the Futurity this year. I might be the only person picking her outside of her husband Jack, but I'm telling you right now, there's something special about that horse, and if things go right, that could be big. So, Casey, just know I'm cheering for you. I think you're going to do awesome. So with that, if you enjoyed the episode, like, share, comment, and subscribe, and get involved in the discussion. And I will see you guys all next week before the finals. After the semifinals are done, I'm going to record a preview episode for just the finals and predict it all the way down. So hope you all have fun in Oklahoma City, and I'll be watching from home. And happy Futurity, guys.